What's up, Lego builders? Welcome back to Coconut Brick Studios for week 5 of building the Battle of Jabiim in Lego. I'm going to be kicking things up a notch this week building wise and really trying to get a lot done. I want to get the rock work done on the right side and kind of like the back rightish area so that I can also start working on the upper terrain this week and kind of figure out what my vision and plan is for how the upper terrain is going to come together. If you're excited for this update and ready to see some progress, don't forget to execute Order 66 on that like button. And while you're down there, if you're watching for the first time, consider subscribing and tapping that little notification bell. That way you'll be notified as soon as the next update drops. All that being said, it's time for me to get building. Surprise, surprise, I'm starting out this week with more rock work again. This side is going to be a little bit more tough than the back and the front because the whole thing is curved, and so I gotta remember and kind of figure out how to get the rock work to slope upward and curve and have a curve to it to give it that rounded shape while still making sure it's sloping upwards in the right directions. Once again, I really love the look that the wedge plates give that run around the base of the MOC. Typically when you think freeform, or at least when I do, I think of like slopes and bricks and plates down around the base of your MOC instead of just wedge plate. And I think, wedge plate doesn't always look super great down there, but I think because it's beneath the tall rock walls, it makes it look really cool and kind of helps keep that rock work look rounded and curved on the bottom. The entire right side of the MOC has been at least started. You can see I even made this little turn right here. So now all I have left is that flat patch. Now you may be thinking, this MOC's a circle, it's all rock work, who cares? Why does it matter that there's a front and a back? I'm actually going to be doing two different kinds of styles of rock work on the front and back. So I think I've talked about this already. The back side here is going to be very flat and cliff-like. Same with the ravine, which you can barely see because it's so dark. The front part is going to be a little bit more hill-like, a little bit more sloped and less flat. I've never really tried that technique style before, just because that one is fairly complicated to do. When you're doing flatter rock work like I typically do, you get to use a combination of slopes going this direction and slopes being flat, if that makes sense. Whereas when something's sloping this way, you mainly only use slopes going one direction. And so for me, I feel like it's kind of hard to create a natural looking slope and not make something that looks man-made. Basically what I'm trying to say is I'm going to have a lot less of this flat stuff where the slopes are facing each other and more stuff like this where the slopes are facing out to create a much more sloped look. The reason I decided to do that is I just wanted to see the two different styles and how they looked, and I wanted to mix up the rock work a little bit and try something that I hadn't already done. Another reason I wanted to get this far right side done as quick as possible is because I want to start working on the terrain. This is going to be like the front of the MOC. This is going to be the opening of the base. This is where the battle's going to be taking place, where most of the vehicles are, and a lot of the minifigures. If this were a newspaper, this would be the front page, and this would be like, the columns or the comics or something in the back. So I wanted to get this finished so I could start testing out what I was going to do for the terrain and how I was going to make the transition from rockwork to terrain. And I wanted to do that in the back section because you won't be seeing that section as much. It won't be as important. And typically when I start working on something, it doesn't look very good, and then I practice and work on things, and then it looks better. So I'm hoping, I'll start here, get all the hiccups and weird stuff out of the way. Then by the time I get to over here, I'll have kind of like the technique I want to use down, and hopefully this front area will go and hopefully this, area over here will go much smoother. But that's everything I've got for you guys now. It's time to get back to work. Time for another progress update. So I've continued to work on this rock wall back here. Once I got all this rock work to the proper height, I started putting on the upper terrain. I've just been using these dark tan plates. Whenever I'm connecting some kind of terrain to the top of a rock wall, I like to hold the plate back 1 to 2 studs like this or like this. I don't like to do it like this because there's no way for me to transition from rockwork to terrain. So you've got this weird 90-degree angle right here. But when you hold the plate back like that, you can see I've got room for little cheese slopes like this, tiles, slopes, even bigger slopes like this, which make the transition from rockwork to upper terrain much more smooth and natural looking. It does still look a little bit rough right now, mostly because I've only been focused on the very edge right here. And once I work my way further in and start putting down more plate and tile, I can see how this whole area looks, and I may end up pulling off some of these slopes and working in other tiles and bricks. Basically just doing what I need to do to get the desired effect I'm looking for. So now that I've started to get the edge figured out, I'm going to start moving inward with the upper terrain and put down more of these dark tan plates with these 2x4 support pillars underneath. Since I don't have 16 by 16 plates, I'm gonna try connecting 6 by 8 plates together to create larger plates for the upper terrain. I'm gonna place those larger plates in 16 by 16 sections or whatever size I make them, instead of having lots of little plate connections everywhere and having everything be at the exact same height. I'm doing this for a couple of reasons. First, I can build the upper terrain in smaller sections instead of putting down all of the plate at once. This will allow me to build where I want and to make sure each section is secure and won't break. And second, I can make different areas of the mock higher or lower to make sure it doesn't look too flat and help bring the terrain to life a little bit more. Here's one last look at the mock for the week. I got a lot of progress done in this episode. Dare I say the most out of any Jabiim update so far. None of this had been even started when I began the week, so really happy to have already been turning the corner with the rockwork here. I just have this front strip, and then I'm already starting to figure out what the upper terrain is going to look like. I do like how the rockwork transitions into the terrain. There are a couple spots that I'm still a little hesitant on, and I think as I continue to work on the terrain and finish this section, I'll better know what to do with this end. But for the most part, I'm pretty happy with how everything is looking. As far as the upper terrain goes, at first I was really annoyed with all of the pillars that I was going to have to use to hold up this terrain, but figured out this clever little technique. I don't know why I didn't think of it sooner, but these pillars are, I think it's like 12 bricks and 2 plates tall, which means instead of having that last brick, I have a plate down here on the bottom, and then on the top, I have 2 6x6 plates connected next to each other. So instead of having a pillar that has a reach of 4 studs, I now have a pillar that has the reach of 6 studs, which means I'll have much stronger connections between these plates, and hopefully it'll help hold them up better than if I just had these little smaller connections. Hopefully this update was more entertaining than the previous ones. I'm really trying to figure out ways to give you good, entertaining clips and change up the way that I'm sharing progress with you guys to make these videos more watchable. Let me know what you think about the time lapses and different things I've been doing down below in the comments. All that being said, that wraps up this week. Time to hit the outro. Another week down, and I am much more satisfied and much happier with the progress that was made this week. It's always a tough balance for me trying to figure out how much I want to get done each week, especially with a mock like Jabiim, where I have pretty much all the pieces I need. I'm not really going to be waiting on parts. And so I don't want to rush through this too quickly. I want to, spread it out and have this nice, even, steady progress each week. But I also don't want the updates to feel stale. I don't want the updates to feel stale or stagnant. I think too, like I said last week, once I get into the upper terrain and start working on the base, I'll have more fun things to do update-wise or progress-wise or video-wise for you guys, if that makes sense, because I'll be building buildings, doing tents, barracks, bases, bunkers, all different kinds of stuff, whereas right now it's just land features. So we've got good things coming over these next weeks, and don't forget to let me know what you thought about this episode down below in the comments, and I will catch you guys next time. But until then, happy building.